changing lives.
You're wondering what I'm doing, right? I'm trying to say good evening and welcome to the law chambers where legal matters are discussed from a Christian perspective. So you see how they actually, it's very, very important. I'm your usual hostess, Anita, and this program is quite educative, if I say so myself. Before we delve in, last week we started with this poem, and yes, we are going to continue today. And so without much ado, let me invite Asante Niba for the poem, and then when she's done, we'll continue with the program. Enjoy.
Grab a chair and gather the chattels, get out of your lair and let the kids put down their pastels. Before God, lay your heart bare and make room for angels. Shh. Make sure your child doesn't whimper. It's time for the law chamber, where legal matters are viewed through the Christian lens. That lens with the wide aperture, allowing the light of the world to penetrate, bringing cases into sharp focus, blurring the worldly background. From landlord-tenant wahala to knowing the nitty-gritties about your legal rights, to whether you stand a chance in your family's inheritance. That significant other of yours who has promised you that you'll be his message soon. The one you currently cannot breathe without, allegedly. The one who makes your heart beat more than 100 times per minute. Have you for once put your emotions and feelings aside to think if your Mr. Right is entangled in some legal matters? I advise you do, because for all you know, the marriage rite about to be performed between you and Mr. Right may not be something you may want to write home about after all, right? Concerning that affidavit to discredit that beautiful name your parents gave you, from Priscilla Kwachi to Priscilla Brown, do you by chance have any possible outcomes of that major decision that you took? I guess not. The show will keep you adequately informed. Fine legal knowledge brewed in the Adventist pot. All these want to make me make more noise about TLC as though I'm using a VLC. For in this show, I know I have sparked your interest, and may you never rest until you have told another friend to tell another friend to tell another friend. And may you never slack in letting them know that the law chamber is back. Thank you.
Hey, the law chamber is back. I'm not a show baby how. I'm telling you, she wrote the poem herself, and of course she recited it herself. And she goes by the stage name Asante Niba. Asante Niba. And I know you are curious to know a little bit about her, so am I. So why don't we ask her a few questions and then we'll delve into today's program, right? Asante Niba. It's really easy, sir. It's not easy, is it? So tell me something about yourself. What's your real name?
Abena Usuha Ampondakwa.
Okay, tell me a little bit about yourself.
I'm a third year medical student.
Medical student?
Yes.
Now, poem so the cover medical.
The poetry is my talent. It's a God-given talent.
Okay.
Yeah, I've been doing it for 6 years now. Yes.
Okay.
I've been on several stages. I've been to MX24 TV twice. Last year, December, and then this year for World Poetry Day. I was there together with other poets to celebrate the day. I also performed in school countless times, countless programs. Yeah.
And a friend was telling me about Vodafone something that you were on.
Yeah. The July 2021 edition of Vodafone Top Talent. I was part of the 20 finalists that were selected out of the 80 entries that they got. So the amazing thing is that I even submitted my entry on the deadline. I got to know about that program on the deadline, and I submitted it that day, and I was called that day, that evening, that I've been selected as part of the 20 finalists, and I was the only poet among them. The rest of them were STEM people, dancers, singers, etc. Yeah.
And how did you go? I'm curious, how far did you go?
I didn't win though, but I was given a certificate that to show that I was part of the finalists for that particular.
Wow. Are you an Adventist? Which church?
Yes, I'm Ablekuma.
Ablekuma SDA Church?
Yes.
So medicine, poetry, How are you going to combine it? Like, because it's two different fields.
Yes, it's
because
not
medical school should be very demanded.
Yes, it's very it's very difficult, but poetry is my safe space. I would say anytime maybe things a bit chaotic, maybe mentally, everything, when I enter quote unquote into their realm, everything becomes very calm. So it's like poetry helps me a lot to cope with. It's one of my coping mechanisms to help me with stuff in life.
Thank you for joining us. But right now, and a lot of we are going for this short commercial break. We'll be right back.
As a small business owner, Mitaisha Business Forum, our Hope channel, it really helps me with my business.
Don't let your priorities be because obi eye bibinti. Also share some wide. Why one kasa sawasa. So jani niya obiani.
Okay.
Obiani need so that unko fa a problem in my wash.
In the first place, business a risk.
Okay.
It's just all about risk. Now pursue your business, so now you need you should be a risk taker.
Okay.
I would recommend it to you to Mesresa Usu Beshebi.
Anita Delight here, and season 2, episode 2 of season 3. Episode 2 of season 3. Last week we discussed all the questions we had in respect to other areas that we had discussed in season 2. Today we are going to continue with that, and today we are going to look at the landlord-tenant relationship. We are going to look at landed properties. We are going to look at movable properties. So we had a few questions coming in, and so we are doing a mob up per se of last season. So every question you had in respect to last season, you bring it to us and then we answer it, and then we move on with that. Last week there was a question that came, but we didn't see it on time, so we couldn't address that question. So let me quickly ask Anita that question. Anita will answer it, and then we'll delve into the question and answers for 7 to 10. So our cherished viewer, Afrakuma Boache answer, Zolali, Afrakuma Boache answer, asked a question. She said this: cancel, but there are joint accounts that are on a lighter note. If a will is filled and later a voice or video recording is found with property allocated, which one supersedes the other? So what she's asking is, so you've made a will. The lawyer has done everything that the lawyer is supposed to do. The lawyer has filed it in court. You have a copy. And then before you died, you did a video, again purporting to will your properties. So which one will hold in court? Is it the one that the lawyer did that has been filed in court? Or is it the video? Anita, which one are we looking at?
Okay, so our law specifies a form in which a will has to be. The law says it should be a written document. So if after the person is dead, the will is deposited, the will has to be deposited in court. So if after the person dies, a video recording is found which contradicts what has been filed, then it throws a doubt into what has been filed in court. So in that case, if it's brought to the attention of the court, the will could be nullified. If it is, the video shows that it was done after and is the same person who is in the video making those statements, saying that he has changed something, then the will that is in court could be nullified.
But if the will has to be written, this one is a video. So it's not written. So if there's a contradiction, why should the written one be put aside for a video?
Oh, a will can be changed. You can do a will today and tomorrow change your mind that I intended to give to my daughter this property, but I've changed my mind. I'll give to, because it's your property. You can decide who to give what to.
That's true.
So you can change your mind. But if you don't get the opportunity to change, maybe to put it in the right way, but it all depends on what the court will make of it. It's up to the court to decide.
Because the video
really
is a little alien with our laws.
Yes, because you cannot have video will. I haven't seen. But sometimes some lawyers, in the course of preparing the will, will actually want to take a video as evidence that the person actually did this will himself. It wasn't concocted or forged. But then we don't have a video will. A will has to be written. So if it is lodged in court and there's an evidence that contradicts or throws doubts as to the validity or the authenticity of the will that is in the custody of the court, then the court may strike it out or so. So it's up to the court.
The word here is may.
Yes,
and if
may.
it does, then it means that the whole property go into intestacy.
That is what it is. Yes. So
law is like a quite interesting subject, isn't it?
So that is what it is.
The idea is not to turn you into a lawyer yet. That's not the idea. But the idea is for you to appreciate law, so that in your day-to-day activities, you'll be able to make informed decisions. So the one who just spoke is Anita Okra. I was saying Anita Okra, she was here last week. And she's a lawyer, a practicing lawyer with over 7 years of experience. She is with the Lands Commission. She's a legal officer with the Lands Commission. And today we're going to talk about lands. So that's why she's here with us again. She's a member of the Ghana Bar Association. Now, this year, what you are due today?
Oh, dues say it here. By December you pay so that you can get your license.
Also,
this year you pay ahead of time. I have paid.
Okay.
I am a member in good standing.
And lots of lawyers don't pay. They don't pay. She's an Adventist with Prince Emmanuel SDA Church, and she's married with 2 kids. So you heard from Anita. And then I have Mr. Frederick Opoku. He is a Secretary General of the National Tenants Union of Ghana. He's a gender and housing rights advocate, and he's been practicing in the area of advocacy for over 15 years. Fred?
Anita.
Over 15 years?
Yeah.
And before camera the best start, you know, Kasana voice different. I feel camera the talk, so other voice deep will be.
I love camera. I always want to be on camera, so I really love camera. So when I see camera,
the voice changes and then it becomes a little deep and romantic.
Well.
Oh, Charlie, yeah, I'm not. All right. So if you have the tenant union here, it's just fair that we also have the rent control here, right? Yeah. It's just fair to have the rent control department here. So I have Mr. Emmanuel Bosu, middle one in Mirifi. XOVE. Hove.
Yeah.
Hove. Emmanuel Hove Bosu.
Yeah, that's okay.
He is the head of public relations at the rent control department. In the national, he's a spokesperson for rent control department. He's a rent officer and a chartered arbitrator. Ima, welcome.
Thank you very much.
I hope you are good.
I miss your viewers.
Oh, you miss them.
I miss them seriously.
And did you get anyone coming to your office asking questions, wanting more?
No, we get them frequently from the media houses, individuals. They come all the time.
So rent control, do you have a better building now? Because the last time
we are still patching with the Ghana authority. Our building is taking so much time to be renovated.
Ghana, we don't have money. You want your money for building?
There's no money.
There's no money.
But we are pushing. It's a slow pace in renovating it, but we'll get there.
Praise the
It's
Lord.
better late than never.
Oh, Jai, that's it. Doesn't apply every time.
It does.
All right. So, Iman, let me ask you. Let's delve into it. So, let me
Yes.
ask you this question of who. Let's cover the basics. Who is a tenant and who is a landlord?
Okay. So basically, under Section 36 of the Rent Act, which talks about the interpretations, defines a landlord as somebody who has taken money from somebody in intention of departing or giving his property, typically a house, for the person to dwell in for a period of time. And then in the vice versa, a tenant is somebody who has paid money to somebody to occupy his or her premises for a period of time. So this is the basic definition you can see under Section 36 of the Rent Act.
So, are you saying that if there's no exchange of money, then it can't be a tenant-landlord relationship?
Of course, because if my father has built a property and I'm dwelling in, I've not paid money to dwell in, you can't call yourself a tenant. And your father cannot call himself a landlord because there's not been any.
But the minute your father takes money, irrespective of the amount from you, do you become a tenant?
Yes, you become a tenant because that's when the dispute comes. You can call your tenant and then we'll.
So let's say someone asked a question actually, and to summarize this, you're saying that they are living in their father's house, and their father said that they should pay something small for renovation of the building. It's not as if, in the father's mind, it wasn't rent, but he's dying. So they should be collecting something small among themselves to renovate the building. Now the father is dead, and the elder brother takes over, and he's been taking those small money for the renovations. Will you consider that a tenancy agreement?
No, we can't consider because that's your father's property. You know, when you become landlords and tenant, there should be a tenancy agreement. That should be key. If there's tenancy agreement spelling out your right and responsibility, then you can call yourself a tenant or a landlord at that aspect. But contributing to maintain the place by paying money, you can still not call yourself a landlord or a tenant. Yeah.
Alfred, the idea is that when I pay, I'm a tenant. So I'm paying, so far as there's no real agreement written down, you're not going to fight.
But the intent of the money you are paying will differentiate whether you are a landlord or a tenant.
The intent?
Yes.
Okay, so the intent is for renovation. But I'm still paying, and now I'm being evicted from the house, and I want your protection. You're telling me that because the intent?
No, you see, that it is still the intent. If you are paying to rent the place, but you are paying to renovate, so you cannot classify yourself as a landlord.
Fred, are you on the same page?
Yeah, something like that. But you see, it all depends on the fact that, like, there has been an agreement. You are in the premises, which belongs to a father. Fine, it's a family issue, but definitely you need to maintain the property. Therefore, if you decide not to be part of maintaining the property, then you don't also qualify to be there, ideally. So if your siblings decide to put that contributions together in order to make the place safe for it to be durable, and you say that I don't want to pay, then I don't think, as I said with Mr. Bosu, it is never an issue of tenant and landlord matter, because definitely there's an underlying word that has to do with tenancy agreements. So if there's no tenancy agreement, you cannot say that you are a tenant, because as you rightly mentioned, the intention here, you have not entered into anything with anybody, and your father wasn't taking any money from you. But he made points that, okay, we should be contributing from time to time, and the time to time can be when it is decided, whether 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, or 3 years. So if your brother comes and your brother really want to change it, maybe depend on the regular aspect. When he asks for demands the money, you may challenge it. Maybe every 3 months, let us do this. Every 2 months, let us do it. You may challenge it, but it's all.
How are you going to challenge it? Not with the rent control, because the rent control doesn't consider you a tenant.
It's a family affair.
So the family should
exactly. It's a family issue, because if your father, your brother is an elderly person, maybe depending on the decision your father took before he died, in terms of has he been given the mandate that he is in charge of everything over there, or because you are assuming some position because you are an elderly child, veto by yourself or what. But it depends. But I believe that maintenance is very important. If you live in any place of accommodation, it's important that you have to be able to maintain. If you are a tenant, Clearly, the tenancy agreement will spell out what you ought to do and not to do. So I believe that.
So there's another question from one of our viewers, Ken, and his question is quite simple. That he was thrown out of the apartment. And I want you particularly to answer this question because you are, so he's a tenant in the house and they gave him 3 months. He was still there. They gave him 2 months. They gave him another 3 months. So he said he got almost a year to move out. And then one day he comes and his things are outside. And there's a policeman supervising.
You see, let me be very frank, everything is about law.
Yeah.
The law of this country with respect to Rent Act 220, 1963, states that like you go to pay your rent monthly, short tenancy, at most 6 months. But it shouldn't exceed 6 months rent advance or whatever you.
I'm not going to go into that one.
No, maybe that's law. But the point is that if indeed your time has elapsed, okay, it is about you have to leave. The law does not prescribe and give you 3 months, 6 months. It's not even true that it's in 90 days or 60 days of that. The law does not say anything in the law. Maybe the landlord may be magnanimous, out of magnanimity, and said, okay, be there because you have not gotten a place. Or maybe because of the situation of your wife or your child, there's a situation. He may consider you that, okay, I'll give you more time. But it is not your right to say that I'm demanding. So if 1 year you don't do it and you come and your things are out, but it must be done properly. You see, nobody can be evicted from a room without the consent of a rent magistrate. No. If the rent control doesn't have the power to do so, rent control can never evict you. They will look at the case.
Isn't that why people are staying in people's houses for 2, 3, 4, 5 years? Okay, 5 years to one. Let's say 5 months, 6 months, 1 year. And still, there's nothing in that because they have to go through the process. And the process can delay.
Yeah, it cannot delay. It depends on you go to rent control. Your first point of, if you have an issue, there is a law mandated body called Rent Control Department. And if you go there today and they understand the law, they know that, okay, what was the agreement? Has your time elapsed? Why haven't you left? Why haven't you paid? In any case, the 1 year that you are living in the place, you are obliged to pay every month.
Yes.
Of course, yes.
The rent is paying. But Imam, my issue is that, so Imam, tell us, what is the longest period that you've arbitrated on a case like this? Give me your longest period.
Over 4 years.
And the 4 years, the person was still living in the house?
No, you mean I've sat on that case?
Yes, or your rent control department has sat on a case, and for how long? What's the longest period?
Anita, let's start from the basis.
Okay.
Under Section 17, which talks about recoverable rent.
Yeah.
The first article there is that you, the tenant, has no right to owe the landlord more than a month's rent. So if I'm owing you a month's rent, and you decide to give me a grace period to pay, and it continues, the first thing is that after the month, you, the landlord, has right to come to rent control, that the tenant has contravened the law. So you start from there. But if you, out of sympathy, let me give you 6 months, let me give you, and it accumulates to the maximum of 5 years, it's not a making of anybody. After the first month, you have the right to start the process. Yes. You come to rent control, we look at your tenancy agreement, we look at the period the person has given you. Just as Mr. Poku said, we make a determination, a recommendation. So, in the Act 2, we are forced to make sure we reconcile and promote peace. So, if we are reconciling parties, we may plead on your behalf and give you some days or some months. After that period, if you don't move, we make the recommendation, or our recommendation, we pass it on to the magistrate to what I call stamp on it, or to enforce it. Just as we don't have the right, no rent control. So the case that the police was involved, I want to ask, was it the magistrate who gave the police the order to go and evict the person?
My question. I want to know the duration. What is the longest period the rent control department have arbitrated a case?
Yeah.
What's the longest period ever?
We look at I cannot give you specific, but we look at the circumstances surrounding.
I'm not giving, I don't want you to give me about this case.
Okay.
Look at the cases you've handled.
Yes.
What was the longest one, period?
That you've given somebody to.
That you've arbitrated a case. That you are, someone reported to the end where the landlord got over.
No, we have an average of 2 sittings.
Okay.
Okay, we have an average of 2 sittings.
And
the 2 sittings can be within 6 months.
6 months.
It can be 1 month. It can be 3 months. But averagely,
so you don't have timelines?
Averagely, 2 sittings.
2 sittings doesn't give you a time.
Exactly. It depends on the circumstance. Probably, the person has done something which the person has to be there. If the person does not move, then they come back. Okay, so based on circumstances, but we have a standard set in our office that an average of 2 sittings, we should be able to pass on. If the person does not comply, just as I said, we just pass it on to the magistrate.
Can a case be there for about 6 months?
Yes.
Can it be there for about a year?
Exactly.
2 years?
2, it can be.
3 years?
Yeah, it can be. You know, all those cases.
In my 5 years?
No, I'm just telling you that all those cases are based on the circumstance. It can be 1 week. It can be 1 day. It can be 5 years.
But the fact that I own a building and someone can be in it without my permission, but with the permission of rent control because of arbitration for 2 years a year, it's quite.
No, so under all these circumstances, if the one party is not satisfied, you can apply for it to be moved to the magistrate. Yes,
so you go to the court.
You go to the court.
Final decision maker.
And it can go as far as the Supreme Court. Because we have rent cases starting from our end, which has ended easily.
To Supreme Court.
Easily.
And I don't the
All right. Rent cases are.
So I have another question here too, and the person's question was to the effect that. Oh, this one, Anita, you could help out with it. So it was to the effect that the husband rented the place for 6 months, and then the husband is dead, but there's a standing of 2 months. So she wants to stay in there. They are saying that she should take her money of 2 months. They are refunding the 2 months, and that she wasn't the tenant, so she should leave.
Yes, so we can attribute this to subletting in a way, and then another part, we look at the tenancy agreement. Okay, if he has to, now the person is dead, so the issue of subletting will not come in. But the issue is that if I've signed an agreement with you and you are no more there, I have the right to renegotiate with anybody who is staying there. But in all those circumstances, the court can decide on what to do. You know, in the act, it's again, if families are in a property and one party is dead, the person who signed an agreement, you, the landlord, has no right to force those family members out until their tenancy expires. Okay. So if the tenancy expires and he wants to renegotiate with them, re-sign an agreement with them, fine. But as far as the tenancy agreement has not elapsed, you, the landlord, has no right to evict those people. We have it in the act.
Fred, do you want to add up?
Yes, for me, I believe we're talking about marriage. Somebody's husband is dead, and before the person came to that place, he came with a wife. So ideally, you can't separate the man from the woman, provided when the person entered the premises, he was able to introduce the lady or the woman to you that that's my wife, and I'm dead. I have 2 months to complete my distance. How dare you tell me this? Even the rent control setting on this case should reason, understand that legally, since the person is not just a mere stranger, but a wife of the deceased, then therefore, maybe even the court of competent jurisdiction will even look at it from the angle of wife and man, and therefore allow the 2 months to. So they cannot, for me, they don't have any reason to say they leave. Allow the 2 months or 1 year to elapse before you can do anything, because it's a man and woman. You can never separate them by law. You cannot.
But the law is also saying that, Anita, there are 2 individuals, there are 2 separate individuals.
I don't think.
Where a man can make a property, a woman can make a property, and their individuality is enshrined in the Constitution.
The point is that, here's the key, you talk about rents. Somebody enters your premises.
There's an agreement. An agreement is Mr. Kojo Mensah and the landlord, Mr. Kofi Ama.
Before, it's not even allowed that when you are even introducing a stranger to your home, you need to inform even the landlord. Are you okay? Anytime somebody visits you, within some time space, it is fair for the landlord to know that the person will be there. Maybe
it's fair, but is it legal?
You see, in law, in law, fairness, equity, right?
No. I don't want to go equity when we can do substantive law.
You say law.
No. So I want substantive law that is it captured? Will come under equity.
Okay.
But is it captured in our laws?
But my assertion here is simple. There's a man and a woman called husband and wife. All right?
Yes.
They came together. Unless you tell me that the man came in, all of a sudden somebody came in and said, I'm the wife. If it is not so, but you said man and the wife, and the man is dead, therefore legitimately they came together. And you cannot say that the man is there, so let me refund your money and leave because I don't have any agreement with you. That is not fair. I'm trying to be very sure.
You know what I want to do? I want us to be dispassionate about it. And I want us to fair, not fair. The world is not fair, generally. Because the bondholders will tell you that the world is not fair. So, so I want us to be a little bit legalistic and let the person understand so that later, if we want to now use sympathy and empathy, we can do that.
The issue is that if families are there and they acquire property, even if the man acquire property, so far as they are together, it's for the two of them. So if we live together, and
in fact, even the new Land Act even talks about when a husband, they are married and you acquire property, it is dedeemed that your wife also has it. Yes. So it becomes a marital.
I want us to talk
pocket lawyer.
I'm a pocket lawyer. So there's another. Okay,
so once they are living together as husband and wife, and they rented a place together, so that place is like their matrimonial home, sort of. And the man is passed. You cannot say the woman should, because even if there is the man's name that is there, it is deemed that the man is holding in trust for the it's for the two of them. So
please, are we getting?
You cannot
so,
be victim.
The one who sent the question, I hope you've done justice to your question. So there's this other question that talks about this one. I really loved when the person sent it. So the question is the effect that the land lady. Okay, so she's a lady living in the house, and a guy came to stay with her. Her lai momo came to stay with her, and the landlady asked the gentleman when the gentleman was coming from the bathroom, "Are you staying here with us, or you came to visit?" And the gentleman said, "I'm staying here with you." And the landlady said, "No. Like, but my morals and the morals of this family, and we don't do that in this house. So either go and marry the lady and come and stay here, or you can come and visit for some few days and all that. But you can't come and live here with us because we didn't rent the room for you, the lady and you. So please, I don't want to see you in my house." The lady is livid. She's angry because she has rented. It's her domain. So she can bring whoever for how long? Because for that period, it's a property. Anaima?
No, you cannot just bring people to... the first issue is that before even you pay the money, there should be that tenancy agreement, which will spell out your rights and responsibilities. So if you signed for such an agreement...
But if there's no written agreement?
If there's no written agreement, then there's the cost of the landlord, because you have to prepare the tenancy agreement, and then so that the tenants who are coming to your abode will know their rights and responsibilities. So if you've not done that, and the tenant who has not requested for it, and there's new issues that
up.
Exactly,
what happens?
you should just sit down and then renegotiate.
There are two entrenched positions. One is saying it's my boyfriend and I intend to marry him one day. So he's living with me. The landlady says that per the morals of this household, it can't be done unless he's married to you. So there are two things. Either the guy will visit you periodically, but he can't live with you, or you vacate the premises.
Yeah, so in that case, if there's no agreement, then there should be a departure of the parties. Yes. They have to sit down and judge. If there's still if there's no disagreement, they have to separate.
separate, what does that mean?
We mean that you have to
Terminate.
vacate the premises.
Terminate the
So it means in the nutshell that the landlady can
Yeah,
can
that's
sack
a property.
They can terminate
Yeah,
it's an
exactly.
agreement.
Yeah.
And tenancies can be terminated. I mean, by either party.
Yeah.
So if you are having disagreements,
But when you say
you
that
can
what the
agree
landlady is doing is fair, because in this era, people go and I don't even understand why a man will go and live with a woman for that long. You know? But let's put morality and. But do you think it's right for?
No, it's
because
fair.
someone's like Momo.
No, the issue is that the premises are built different circumstances. Okay, if you say you are coming to live alone, the property, the pressure on the property, we have to think about it.
Oh, okay.
So if it's a single room that you are coming to dwell, if now you want to build a family, then move to a chamber and all, a 2-bedroom house.
Oh, okay, I
Okay.
get you. Because if
but
one person
yes.
stays in the room, what will happen to the room will not deteriorate that badly if you
faster, exactly.
Oh,
so that
okay.
happens to our foreigners. I'm not mentioning any country.
Okay.
That comes into our country. They will come as individual before you realize there are 10 or 20 in a room. All these are just.
So apart from the landlady's morality and everything, it's really concrete.
Exactly.
Do you have any legal backing?
So you have to give, the issue is that you have to make your intent known to the landlady or landlord when you are coming in. At the inception, you should tell that my boyfriend will be coming to stay with me, or my family will be staying with me. Then you seal the agreement there, so that when you introduce somebody else, you've made her known already. But you don't sneak in as individual. Then before you realize, your entire family or your people
let me chip in this one, because she says something to the effect that the landlady said that you can bring. She said she told the landlady that I'm afraid to stay and live alone, and the landlady said that you can bring any of your siblings to come and live with you, but not a man. Does it make sense?
Look,
like, so the landlady is not really against someone coming to live with her and help her, but the fact that you are not married to the person, the morality and everything is goes against everything that the household holds.
Okay, so it comes to our laws again, that a tenant should not act immorally. You should not cause nuisance and annoyance. You should not. So if he has to do moral, then the landlady has right.
So there's moral.
Exactly. Because if you are not married to a person, how can you live with a person? And in future, you start producing.
Landladies.
You start producing, and then you put pressure also on the
morality. Where someone comes to someone's house room around 11, 12, 1. Now it's a move you around 2, 3 now. Morality,
it's a
ground to evict.
It's part of the offenses under the act. Yeah.
Ima.
Yeah.
Do you know what you are telling our viewers?
No, of course, it's in the law. We have it in our law.
Was morality explained, interpreted?
No, it was not defined. But in our culture, we know what immorality is.
The people are in trouble.
If I may come in.
Yeah, come in.
Look.
Yes.
I seek to all the time talk on behalf of tenants, right?
Yes.
But sometimes you have to look at moral grounds and also advise professionally.
Okay.
My take of this situation or saying has to do with the fact that the law even stated morality. But in this case, for me, morality to be explained in the view of law talks about what the law does not allow. Illegal. Okay. No, explicit. No, that's what I'm talking about.
You are looking at morality in terms of illegality.
I'm trying to say that even we have just no moral grounds, it's not legal.
Okay.
I am saying that in law, what was spelled out in the rent law, that immoral acts, smoking marijuana, for example, bringing or turning that room to a motel or something like that. Brothel.
That's illegal.
Are you okay? The law, and I mean, in view of it, does not allow it. Are you okay? So for in this case, there should have been a legal tenancy agreement.
There was none.
Which should have spelled out. So the mistake the landlady did was not trying to put this thing in that agreement,
writing.
that was going to actually make that her demands easily to be this thing. But if you take this thing to court, I don't think the court will allow you. If
the court will allow who?
The court cannot allow, because you sit, I didn't know which is moral to you, and it wasn't spelled out in any document. Therefore, I don't think any competent court of jurisdiction will look at the saying that okay. No, I don't think.
It's a very delicate statement.
No. I'm saying that I think. Okay, I didn't say. I didn't say I know. It is. I'm using my words very carefully.
Yes.
But my point is that if you talk about immoral acts, then legality is two different things. Okay. What you would think is immoral, okay, the law may not describe it as immoral, as illegal.
He's looking at it from the context of our culture.
That's why I'm saying that they should have put together a tenancy agreement. Everything that can defend you, whatever you want to do anything against a landlord or a tenant, is the people between you and the two of you. So if it was not spelled out, you can't sit just in your room and wake up one day, see somebody coming from the room that I was thinking my household, they said on moral grounds, you are not allowed to do A, B, or C if it wasn't written. If it was written, then you are cautioning the tenant that I don't like this. It must be spelled out clearly. But if it wasn't spelled out and you sit down, I thought that my household, when did you have the meeting in your home to decide that it was immoral? Nobody knew unless it is put on paper.
I think that sometimes we all assume that we know what morality is and what they are. Because frankly speaking, in our era today, that morality now and our mother and our grandfather's time is different. So maybe someone doesn't see going to stay with a woman
as immoral.
They have a name for it, Salome, right?
I don't.
Going to stay with a woman in her apartment for however long, an issue, because right now that's what we are all doing.
Yeah, so Anita, eviction has not been mentioned. Is that so? So that's the point I was coming that if such an issue occurs, they need to sit down and judge. If there is disagreement, the landlady will opt to evict them. But in that case, under the law, it's only when the judge has pronounced that the activities of these people are immoral or illegal. So at that point or at that circumstance, the landlady has no right to evict them. But since we've not reached eviction stage, they can sit down and judge all. But when there's disagreement and one person ought to evict the other, then they have to go to the court for the magistrate to determine that the activities are immoral or illegal.
So it means that the person can always bring the guy can stay there until that
the landlady files the case for the magistrate to determine or define what.
Or better still, the time is expires and
then they tell that I'm not going to renew it again. So that's
interesting. Let's go for this short commercial break. We'll be right back.
As a small business owner, Mitaisha Business Forum, our Hope channel, it really helps me with my business.
Don't let your priorities be because obi eye bibinti. Also we share some why one kasa sawasa. So we jani ni awidiani.
Okay.
Obiani need so that ungofa a problem of my own.
In the first place, business a risk.
Okay.
It's just all about risk. Now pursue your business so now you need it should be a risk taker.
Okay.
I would recommend it to you to Mesresa Usu Beshebi.
Hi, do you know that alcohol is the most abused drug on earth? Do you also know that smoking a cigarette may take 11 minutes of your lifespan? Do you have someone who is psychologically deranged or mentally ill? Do you know that 1 out of 4 women is abused daily? Do you know that now it's common for children under 12 years to smoke and drink? Do you know someone who is addicted and is struggling to overcome addiction? Then there's a good news. The Wounds of the Heart is bringing you qualified practitioners, personnel who understand certain situations. We meet them in their offices, at their homes, at their comfort zone, and right here on our studios. Make a date with me this and every Wednesday at 4 p.m. right here on Hope Channel.
Let's move to the land issues. So the first one is asking about how to register a land generally. You've acquired the land and the owner has given you a deed or an assignment. How do you, because people get the deed assignment, they think that is it, I'm done. How is there another form of registration and how do we go about it, Anita?
Okay. So when you acquire a property, a land, and here land, we mean bare land, or if there's a house on it, it's all termed as land. It's the same thing, and the registration process is the same. So when you acquire a property, it's either the grantor or the person you are buying from is giving you a lease, or is giving you an assignment, or maybe it's a conveyance freehold.
So what is the lease and what is an assignment?
Okay, so a lease means that someone who has a freehold, freehold is like forever, or the allodia owner who also has the biggest interest, also forever, is giving you term of years. So it could be any number of years, 50 years, 99 years, 60 years, 75 years. That is a lease. So when it expires, the property goes back to your grantor, the lessor. Then assignment means that someone who already has term of years, which is the lease, is transferring to you. Then you have an assignment. So in that case, when he transfers to you, he is out of the picture. You become like the new lessee. So when it expires, it goes back to the original lessor. Then you can renegotiate for renewal. So that a freehold means that you have it forever. So it means that you also had it from the allodia owner. The allodia is like the highest interest. The property stops with you, doesn't go anywhere. So you can give someone forever, like a conveyance. Or it's allowed. If it's, okay, now the Land Act has prescribed giving of freehold for family and stool lands. And the government too doesn't give freehold, unless under very limited circumstance, when it happens many years ago. But the government doesn't give freehold. So the law doesn't allow. But then if you are an individual, the law only spoke about family and stools. It didn't talk about individuals. So if you are an individual and you have a freehold already from a family or someone who had the allodia, you can transfer. But if it's a family land, the family cannot purport to give a conveyance. So after you've been given and then the incident of the conveyance or the freehold, you have it forever until you no more have someone to inherit. So maybe you can give it to your child, or your child cannot, but if it stops and then there's no one else to inherit from you, then it goes back to the allodial owner. Yeah. So when you buy the property and you are given the indenture, you apply to Lands Commission for registration.
So you can either be given an indenture or an assignment? It's
the same thing. Okay. Deed of assignment, deed of lease, deed of conveyance. The indenture is just a loose term that we use to refer to that kind of documentation. Yeah. So when you are giving the documents, you have to go to Lands Commission. Now, Lands Commission in our regions, in Greater Accra and all the regions, we have our client service access units where all applications are lodged. So whenever you want to transact any business with the Lands Commission, that is where you have to go. We have our trained officers there you can make all the inquiries, you can do any application if you want to apply for registration of your land, conduct a search, whatever it is that you want to do, you go there and then you'll be served. So you go to Lands Commission and then you apply, and then they will give you the fees, the requisite fees, the requirements you need to meet. Usually you just the indenture you've been given or the document you've been given together with a site plan. You know, the law provides that you should present a site plan that is approved by the director of survey. So I don't know whether you've all heard about barcode. You come and they'll tell you that you have to bring a barcoded site plan. The barcode is only an added feature that we have added recently, just to help us fasten or go quicker with the applications. Because hitherto, when you bring an application with your normal site plan, and in the course of the application, we will ask you to go with another surveyor to the site to go and pick again. We realized it was prolonging the process. So when you bring a barcoded site plan, it means that the data on the plan is stored in our system at survey. So when you apply for land title registration, we just go to the data and then print it. We don't need to go back to the site for another picking and anything like that. That's why we now demand that you bring a barcoded site plan.
Okay. So with the barcoded site plan, who does that? Anyone can do it?
Oh, we have licensed surveyors.
Okay.
Surveyors who have been licensed as cadastral surveyors with Lands Commission.
Okay.
So they know how to do it. So they will go to the site, pick the dimensions, and bring it to our office to process. So the data is kept, and the director of survey or his authorized representative will sign and approve the plan. Okay. So you have to apply for registration with an approved site plan. So whenever you are buying land from anybody, you need to make sure that the person yes, prepares for you.
Understand?
The person prepares for you an approved site plan, not just any site plan.
So when the person does, you know, usually the indenture at the end of it, you have a site plan. Usually it's a normal site plan. Now they're not looking at the normal site plan. You understand? Okay.
It has to be an approved site plan. So when you bring it, you lodge it at our CSAU, and we go through the process. It's a long process.
How long does
it could be, if it's first registration, maybe in about 3 months. If all the requirements are met and there is no hitches on the way. Because land title registration, we have to investigate your title, make sure that you have indefeasible title to the land before we issue.
So if it's already been registered there?
If it's already, that one can even be done within a month or so. Because in that case, we are not going to now investigate, go and bring this, go and bring that, let's go for inspection. We don't do all that because the property is already registered with us. It's just a matter of transfer of title. So that one is done quickly.
And someone also asked a question that she's not in Ghana, and she's acquired a property in Ghana, and they are telling her to bring, she's a Ghanaian, and they're telling her to bring Ghana card before registration can go through.
Yeah. Before I answer that question, I want to explain something. You know, in Ghana, we have 2 systems of land registration. We have the deed registration and we have the title registration. The deed registration is done in all the regions. It's Greater Accra region that we do land title registration, and Kumasi. So Ashanti region is only Kumasi. It's not the whole of Ashanti. So Greater Accra region and Kumasi, we do land title. All the other places, we do deed registration. Okay. So title registration means that we are registering the title you have in the land. But deed is that we are registering the deed, the indenture.
So it means there can be more than one deed.
That is how come the land title registration came in to resolve that problem, because it means that multiple deeds can be registered.
It means that on that same land, more than 5 people can register a deed on it.
And yeah, that's about now. Even though it's deed registration, we also try as much as possible to avoid double registration.
So the land title registration is more powerful.
Yes, that one gives you the certificate over the land, which is deemed to be indefeasible unless it is cancelled by a court of competent jurisdiction. Okay. So, but you know, before we can do land title registration, means that the area has to be declared a registration district. And so far it's Greater Accra region and Kumasi that have it. The other places we haven't. Oh, no, we haven't. I think it's a bit costly to that. It means that the whole area has to be mapped. A lot of work has to go into surveying and those things.
Okay,
and
so
we are not
with
there
the Ghana
yet.
card, the lady's Ghana card.
I had a Ghana card issue. No, you don't need Ghana card per se to register, because per our laws, even a foreigner can own a property in Ghana. The same way Ghanaians also can own property anywhere in the world. Just that there is a cap. You know, if you're a foreigner, you cannot have more than 50 years per our constitution. So that is not a must or mandatory that, but then you need some sort of identification for us to know that you are a human being, that we are registered. You are not a rook or something, just a name. So we need to know that you are a legal person, you exist.
And
so
you
need some sort of identification.
Another question where the person was saying that the landowner is saying that although she is a Ghanaian, the law says that he can't give her 99 years. That the law says that it's just up to 70 years.
No, that's not true. That's not true. If you were Ghanaian,
the landlords are always giving.
No, you know, it's only, the cap is only for foreigners for 50
years. So foreigners
years.
is 50 years. But if you're
Yes.
Ghanaian, it's up to 99
Yes.
years. A renewable car.
Oh, we've even had cases where Lands Commission, we've granted 125 years to institutions. Yeah. So it's not true that the law says 70 years. But just that these days, people are, generally the landowners are refraining from giving 99 years. Mostly are doing mostly 50 years now, 60, 70, yeah. 99 years is sort of fading
out.
Yeah, because even Lands Commission, we don't give 99 years anymore. We mostly do 50 unless under maybe it's a state institution or something that maybe the land was acquired.
Anita,
for you.
just to chip in, there will be a circumstance that if there's an assignment, that 70 years can be, because if I've acquired for 99 years and I've spent only 22 years, I cannot give extra.
Yeah, and you cannot.
So there could be circumstances that.
But all things being equal, I think if you're a good negotiator, you can let landowner give you 99 years.
Oh,
because
yes.
it's allowed per the law.
It is allowed.
But just
if
that
you
the
can pay for it.
The landowner is saying, I won't give you, I'll give you 70.
No, if
but
it's
if you can
a
negotiate
Alodia
well,
owner, then the Alodia owner can extend. But if somebody that I've acquired and I want to assign to you,
you cannot
then
give
I
what
cannot
you don't.
go
No, you can't
exactly.
give what you
Exactly.
So we are talking about a landowner that can give you 99.
Exactly.
And then
the
it's
person is saying, I'm
refusing.
giving you 70.
Oh, sometimes you can negotiate, and maybe they will take more money for the extra.
For extra
Yeah.
years, usually they do.
Yeah.
So it's about negotiation.
So it's about
skills.
negotiation.
So please,
Yeah.
so my final words. Fred, final words.
I think,
And a minute.
I think
Actually,
that
second, actually.
we've been able to speak to viewers,
Yeah.
and they have learned more. But I think we expect that in case in future there are more questions that weren't able to be asked, we will avail ourselves and to serve the people all the time.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, so just to assure your viewers that we are reviewing our ACIC law. Yeah, we've had a stakeholders engagement, of which Mr. Poku was invited. We've gone through, but all those who have anything to add to, our doors are still open. You can go to Parliament, you can speak to your MP, you can speak to your district assembly, anybody. You can come to Rent Control with your views. It has not been passed yet, it has not been ascended to yet. So we are still taking view. Those who have any input are welcome to bring their input. So that
Ima, for this free promo, you owe us money. Yes.
No, it's for Ghana. It's for Ghana, actually. It's going to benefit.
We pay rent here, please. You
have okay.
Yes.
Okay, so my final words will be that I'm speaking for Lands Commission. That it's important that when you buy, you are a landowner, you have to register your interest to safeguard and protect your interest, your hard-earned, investment. So our doors are always open. If you have any questions, any inquiries, how you should go about it, our advisor come to Lands Commission. Our CSAUs are in all the regions. Our offices are there. Come and ask questions, and then we'll aid you, we'll guide you on the process. Don't deal with any guru, agent, and all those people. Come to the Lands Commission.
All right, thank you so much. And I believe we've learned something. I always say that I believe we've learned something. If you don't agree, well, that's what the law says. So you can challenge it in court, and who knows, you might be the first one to help change some of the laws. Thank you so much. So episode 1, 2 done with the question and answers. So God willing, from next week, we'll be delving in proper. And this season, as I said, we'll be discussing how to start your own business legally. So registration of companies, the types of companies we have, shareholders agreement, when there's a dispute, contractual agreement, everything that has to do with a company, you're going to discuss it this season. So if you are an entrepreneur, you want to be one, you have a company or you want to own a company, this season is for you. So until next week, same time, 6:30, please stay safe and God be with us all. Adieu.